performance. Let's watch Trump.
Congratulations, Newt, on last night. That was an amazing year. We don't play games, Newt, right? We don't play games.
I'm joined right now by USA Today's Washington Bureau Chief Susan Page, the Trump surrogate Matt Schlapp, and the chairman of the American Conservative Union. He has both those hats. And Democratic pollster Cornell Belcher. His new book's called A Black Man in the White House. Thank you all for joining us. But I want to go right now with Susan Page, who I rely on a lot for common sense reporting here. And this is this, Newt versus Kelly. Why on earth would Trump want to, the polls are mixed right now. They're bouncing all over the place. I trust this Fox poll. Who knows if he can still win this thing? But he ain't going to win this thing if he focuses on battles with Megyn Kelly. He's got to keep saying over and over again, if you like the way things are in this country on trade, immigration, on wars, vote for Hillary Clinton. That's the status quo. He's got to say that every minute of the campaign, and maybe he can find a victory in all this mess. But if he keeps wasting his firepower on these intramural battles with the media, I don't get it. I don't know why he cares about Newt Gingrich's peeing match, basically. Why does he get involved in these things?
You know, and it's not only a distraction from a message that would be more productive for Donald Trump, it also is not appealing to the voters he needs to get back, which are women.
Yeah.
You know, this kind of language, you're fascinated with sex, to a highly respected journalist, is not really designed to appeal to some of the college-educated women who have been moving away from the Republican Party this year in a big way.
And I think people who would like to get ahead in life, like Megan's gotten ahead, they're thinking, well, here's a successful person, and he's dumping on her. What would he do to me? You know, I don't have the firepower that she has. Anyway, let's go to Matt Schlapp on this. Why is Trump fighting these stupid, I'm not knocking, certainly not knocking Megyn Kelly, she's a pro, but why is he getting involved with these fights? I don't get it.
Well, I think when he talks about the issues, and I think his speeches have been focused like a laser on the
When is he going to do that?
Oh, I agree with you. I think he did it in North Carolina. I think it's a much smarter way things. I mean, when he focuses on the issues, this race should naturally tighten. He is the candidate of change, and the American people want change. And when he doesn't talk about those key issues of terrorism, the economy, and change in Washington, it's a day he loses. I
agree with you. I think the country's 50-50. It could be a close election if he were together as a candidate, didn't have that history that he keeps bringing back up. Every time he fights on the front on one of these sex discussions, he's just reminding everybody of the Access Hollywood stuff. Anyway, Cornell, I don't know whether you agree or not, but I think this country's divided politically fairly closely between left, right, between now and something different than now. And Trump keeps wasting his time, in fact, deluding himself into thinking the real battle's between him and a woman, anchor woman. What's that about?
Well, at some point we got to, you know, Trump is exactly who he keeps showing us he is, right? And, you know, we can talk about him wanting to sort of talk about issues and be a change agent, but consistently he shows us, in fact, who he really is. And it's absolutely ridiculous for him to be getting into these back and forth fights that actually expand sort of his problem with women. But you're right, Chris. The problem is that structurally we are a country that it's going to be hard for one candidate to blow another candidate away in the battleground states. At the same time, we're seeing Clinton expand her overall lead nationally. We know in the battleground states, you know, go to Nevada, go to Florida, go to North Carolina. Structurally, it is really hard especially for a Democrat, structurally, to open up a 6 or 7 point advantage in those states. So it's going to be 3 or 4 points. So, you know, what he does now and what she does right now, sort of on the issues and generating turnout, really important in these battleground states, because it's not going to be an 8-point race in Florida. It's not going to be an 8-point race in North Carolina and Nevada.
Anyway, I just think there's a couple things we're learning in the biographies of both these candidates. One, that Trump, we're getting focused on his biography, which is an important thing to do, but it's killing the message that could be coming as a protest in this campaign over trade and war and a couple other things. And we're losing that message of protest. And Hillary Clinton, you know, Trump's doing the best favor in the world. He's keeping the focus away from her. Anyway, in an interview with Bloomberg's Mark Halpern today, Trump said he liked his chances heading into the home stretch. Let's watch.
What's your general sense of where you are in the battleground states? Florida, Iowa, Ohio?
I think we're winning Iowa. I think we're winning Ohio. So do you. I think we're winning Florida. I think we're winning Florida actually by much more than your poll says. You have us 2 points up. I think we're going to do fantastically in Pennsylvania. I think we're winning North Carolina. I think we will soon be winning New Hampshire. Look, it's jobs. It's fix our military. It's take care of our vets. It's don't let the world take advantage of us. I mean, I don't know if I'm a great messenger, but the message is absolutely the right message.
Susan, what's the smart aspect of saying he's way ahead in Pennsylvania? Nobody, no poll finds that at all.
Well, he says something that's true. I mean, Iowa, Ohio, Florida, those are states that are very close and that he could definitely win. Pennsylvania seems to be pulling away for Hillary Clinton, and so does New Hampshire.
So does North Carolina.
And North Carolina also, and maybe Nevada will be close. I mean, the race has been a little scrambled by his candidacy and some of the changes we've seen in the demography behind the two parties. But it is now hard when you put together the states where he's competitive. It's hard to see how he gets to 270 electoral votes. That's been tough for some time. It gets harder now as we get in the home stretch and some of these states open up leads for Hillary Clinton.
How do you explain the difference between a Fox poll, and it's a good Fox poll generally, at 3 points today, just came out, and a 14-point difference on AP. Matt, you want to answer this? How can two polls be that different, 14 and 3?
Well, there's the endless
Why do we bother reporting them? They're so different. Your thoughts?
There's this endless chatter about what the is and are they skewed, asking too many Democrats, and will the Democrats turn out certainly the African-American vote and the Hispanic vote like they did for Barack Obama? And you have all of that. But I do think there's a big dynamic that we don't know how big it is this time. But because Donald Trump has been so excoriated for the last 4 weeks, and he's had an October in presidential politics, we've really never seen anything like it. I do think there's a lot of voters who like to put him in timeout, and there's a lot of things about Donald Trump they don't like. But in the end, do they move back to him when the coverage of the race is more serene, or at least as serene as this race could possibly be? So I actually think he's much closer. This race is going to get tighter. I think that Fox poll, that Investor Business Daily poll, which called it right last time, which says Hillary Clinton's up 1, I think that's much more indicative of this race than these double-digit polls.
Cornell, I have this sense watching this thing like all of us have been doing now for so long that there's a sort of a situation that develops. If nothing bad happens to Trump for like 2 or 3 weeks or 2 weeks and it settles down, it gets much closer. It's like his bad behavior, whether it's historical or current, is what makes the race easy for Hillary Clinton. The minute he doesn't screw up for like a week or two, it seems like it gets much closer. He hasn't screwed up now since, what, a while ago.
Well, I think that's right, Chris, because part of the problem is if you look at that USA Today poll that came out right now, I mean, he's running 9 points behind among Republican performers where she is among just flat-out Democratic performance. So a lot of the vote that's left him, I mean, it's not like, you know, Hillary Clinton's all of a sudden winning, you know, over vast majorities of voters who've been breaking Republican for all this time, because she's not. She's doing a little bit better. But his problem is when you look at, you know, he talked about Philadelphia. Go to Philadelphia and look at the suburbs around, you know, in Pennsylvania, where those college-educated white voters, especially those college-educated white women, are so critical. And the college-educated whites, they haven't been voting Democrat for the last couple of years. They've been voting Republican, and he's struggling with them right now. If he can get them back, the moment he gets them back,
today,
it's a tight race.
I think Susan's right, Cornell. Susan, I think you're dead right. Picking fights with successful professional women like Megyn Kelly says to a woman in her 20s, 30s, or 50s, or one who missed the opportunities in her generation. They didn't have the opportunities there are today in larger form. That person says, that guy doesn't care about people like me. In fact, he's against people like me.
Yeah.
Susan?
Yeah. I think that's true. And Cornell made a great point in our poll that came out today. 89% of Democrats are supporting Hillary Clinton. 80% of Republicans are supporting Donald Trump. Now, that's also an opportunity for him. Sure is. Because if he doesn't have some turmoil, self-created wounds over the next 12 days, you would naturally assume some of those Republicans to come home to Donald Trump, and that would tighten up this race.
Well, here's more Michigas, a new Yiddish term I've learned this year. Here it is. On CNN today, Trump had a strong reaction to a reporter who dared to ask him why he wasn't out campaigning but was attending the opening of his new hotel in Washington, D.C. Let's watch that fight.
To people who say you're taking time out of swing states to go do this, you say?
I say the following. You have been covering me for the last long time. I did yesterday 8 stops and 3 major speeches, and I've been doing this for weeks straight. I left there for an hour and a half. I'm going to North Carolina right now. Then I'm going to Florida. I'm going up to New Hampshire. For you to ask me that question is actually very insulting, because Hillary Clinton does 1 stop and then she goes home and sleeps. And yet you'll ask me that question. I think it's a very rude question, to be honest with you. And what I do is I want to back my children.
Matt, bingo. It is a tough question, but it is interesting that he took time out for a commercial enterprise in the middle of within 2 weeks of a presidential election. He's got something better to do.
You know, well, let me tell you, I worked for President George W. Bush, and one of the things we all complained about is he kept saying, I want to have my head on my own pillow in my own home at night. And we were like, geez, if you just get out there and spend the night and do some what we call RONs, we could be in more cities. And Donald Trump has done twice as many events with 3 times the crowd. So he does have a fair point to make that nobody can look at Donald Trump and say, you know, you're not having enough events with the people. Of course, as someone who supports him, I think he needs every minute possible out there.
I'll try again, Matt. Why did he accuse her of insulting him? That's what he did in that conversation. You're insulting me by asking that question. That's not an insult. Chris, he could have spun that back. You know what? I still have a responsibility to my company, and this is one of the responsibilities I have to meet even when I'm running. You could have said that.
Yeah, no, look, he's thin-skinned right now with the press. He feels like he's not getting the fair coverage, and it comes across in those kind of prickly answers.
Well, he's not getting positive coverage, and that's not helping. Anyway, Cornell, your thoughts on that last minute. Why does he keep picking fights with whatever woman's nearby?
Because that's exactly who he is, Chris. I mean, I'm sorry, Matt, but he's not a disciplined candidate. And in the narrative about him not being a disciplined candidate and him being sort of a little unhinged and particularly prickly with women, when he keeps reinforcing that narrative over and over again, and it's absolutely killing him with women voters.
And by the word unhinged is being used a lot lately, and it's not helping. It's not a word we hear a lot in politics at the presidential level. Unhinged. Anyway,
Americans don't use that word.
Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you, Susan. You're so smart, and you know the history of this stuff. Anyway, thank you, Matt Schlapp. You're a reasonable guy. And Cornell, I'm looking to you for brains.